Hey, it's Peter Reed Miller from On Sports Photography by Peter Reed Miller. I'm here today with my good friend, Jordan Naholowaʻa Murph. How they doing that? All right.
Naholowaʻa, pretty close.
Okay. Jordan is a successful photographer. Before that, he was a tech for Sports Illustrated, digital tech, did remotes, did digital processing. He has assisted many times. He's helped me make a lot of great pictures, and he's making a lot himself right now. And today we're going to talk about remote cameras. I'm going to start out by having Jordan talk about how many remote cameras do you think you've done over the years, Jordan?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Did 3 or 4 basketball games, NBA and Pro a week with John McDonough, all the football games and big events with you as well over the years. 10 years of that. Maybe 10,000? Right.
I'd say at least 10,000.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
It's about 100 to 200 a week. So
yeah.
We did a lot of them. So yeah.
What are some of the? What's your process when you're doing something like a Final Four or an Olympics, just from the very get-go in terms of preparing and getting the remotes up?
Well, with the large events, there's so many things to keep track of. In terms of permissions, in terms of just getting the equipment there. And a lot of times you're not just putting up one camera, you might be putting up 10 or 15 cameras, so it's a lot of equipment to just get to a location, and once it's there, to get it inside a building and get it safely checked. Then after that, it's putting it up. If you got to get in the roof of a building, that's always, as you know,
it's a thrill.
It's exhilarating. You have to do it and be up in scary places, but you have to get that permission to get up there. There's just a lot of hoops you have to jump through. Yeah.
No, I know, especially in the Olympics, because the Olympics is something that only happens for the time it happens in the place it happens, and never again, usually. So at least with the same people. So you're going into an event like I do a lot of gymnastics, and I'm trying to get permission the day before it starts to put a camera in the ceiling. And different cultures are different. I've had people say, yeah, that's a great idea. In China, it took 3 days to get it approved because everybody's got to ask everybody. So that in itself is a job. Yeah,
absolutely. The last Olympics in Rio, we had to put our remotes up, in some cases up to 30 days out from an event starting.
Wow.
So that's a whole nother can of worms to deal with, is how do you make sure the thing's going to work for a month? How's it going to still be there? If you're outside, it's another thing. Inside's one deal, but if you're outside in the elements, that's a whole other can of worms. So there's a lot of variables to keep track of.
Yeah, that's true. I think that the very first remote I put up was a million years ago at a horse race. I don't think they had cars then, so we just did horse races. And I worked very hard. It was on the rail. The horse race ran. The remote fired. Everything was great until I opened the camera to see that I'd forgotten to load the film. And I think the lesson there is you can get very stressed out about remotes. You really can, but you've just got to be methodical. You've got to think through, almost have a checklist in your mind, if not on paper, and just work it through and test everything.
Absolutely. Putting up a lot of remotes, at some point, something's not going to work.
Exactly.
At some point, there's not film anymore, but we're going to forget a memory card. We're going to forget to wake it up after, if it's been up there for 30 days, and make sure the thing's on. Problems will happen when you get into the world of remotes. Stuff will happen. We just got to keep going. It's one thing to remember. We talked about this. And you guys taught me this when I was much younger pup than I am now. Was remotes are secondary.
Yes, it should never be your main shot. You know, you've got to be where you have to be to make your picture. Remote is gravy. Remote is the overall the stadium when the crowd goes wild. Remote is the straight down view on Gabby Douglas, you know, something like that. If it happens, and it's happened to me, where that is the magical picture, but you can't count on that. Yeah. Your job is to make the magical picture from where you are. Remote, everything after that is gravy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, Jordan, you want to show? Let's show the folks at home a little bit about some of the kind of remotes that we do and some of the remotes that they can do.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anyone's going to get started with remote cameras, it's the floor camera. That's the easiest thing to do. It's the safest. It's the cheapest to get started in terms of equipment. Yeah. It's the simplest to kind of understand and to deal with. So we can start with that.
This would be the floor camera for basketball, but this is the same principle of a goal camera for soccer.
Really, anything you want to put a camera to get a nice, cool down low angle from where you can't physically be. Yeah.
And low angle makes everybody look heroic, makes everything look more exciting. You get a sense of place because you're shooting usually with a wide angle lens. So you get a feeling of being in the stadium. It's very easy to get wrapped up in our 400, 500, 600 millimeter lenses and getting that tight action shot. But it's important to show people where you are and what's going on along with it. So yeah, the low remote.
So, you know, in terms of using, wide angle camera, if you're going to be doing like a goal remote or something,
sure.
Just like you said, the wide angle camera, you got to figure out how to get your camera down low and how to get tilted up. Well, the easiest way to do that and the cheapest way, a little secret we've been using for years, is 2 AA batteries.
Wrapped up in a piece of tape.
Yeah, it's the cheapest, simplest way to do it. And, we'll show how to do it, but it's right here. And now instead of your camera being horizontally on the ground, you get tilted up just like that. Really simple to do, really cheap as well. And you just take 2 AA batteries, really simple. Have a piece of gaff tape here. Are you guys able to see this right now? I mean, I know we're cutting, but should I make room here? So all you gotta do is take these 2 AA batteries right here, nice piece of gaff tape.
Gaff tape is essential to any remote you do.
Yes, gaffer's tape is your friend. It's really simple. Just line it up just like that. Put the negative sides together.
So you don't...
The positives poking out. Yeah.
Burn them out.
And you just roll it.
And then you...
Easy peasy.
Get yourself another piece of gaff tape.
I got it right here.
Oh, all right. See?
Take a piece of gaff tape right here. And on the bottom of your camera, towards the front of the lens mount, take a piece of tape and you just secure it.
There you go.
From there, I mean, you need to adjust it for your angle, exactly what the picture you're trying to make. But that's really just the principle of it. If you need to get lower, if you need your angle to be lower of your camera, you just slide the batteries a little bit more forward. Now the camera will be lower. Or if you want the angle to be higher, you just roll the battery back and retape it, and now your frame's higher. The most simple way to mount the camera.
Yeah, the 50-cent remote mount there. So you've mounted the camera, you've got it, and this would be a floor for basketball. This is a little low for a goal camera. We'll talk about that in a second, but you've got it mounted, and maybe it's right in front of you. If it's right in front of you, that's the simplest thing. Then you can just reach down and fire it. But if you want to fire it from a distance, there's a lot of ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the simple way is if this was right in front of you, about just like you said, it could be right in front of you. You just hit the shutter and you're firing it. If you need to, the next simple thing to do, or the next method that you would want to fire would be a hardwire, simple hardwire using a motor drive plug and what we call a plunger, which is really just a hand trigger. And from there, you plug it into your camera.
Now these cords are camera specific.
Correct.
Every brand of camera has a different remote outlet, so you've got to get a cord that works for your camera. But basically, the principle is the same. And hardwiring a remote is by far the best way to do it. We're going to show you some radios, some fancy schmancy radios, but at the end of the day, the old wire with you on one end and the camera on the other is the best way to go.
It's just like a cell phone. Your cell phone is going to drop sometimes, but if you have a landline, it's not going to fail.
Yeah.
So that's why, as often as possible, we like to hardwire remotes, and it's that simple.
There you go.
Camera, and you know it's going to work as long as you haven't broken your wire. Now the next thing from there is.
I was just going to ask you, Jordan, what's that little box on the cable?
Good point. This wire that goes from the whatever trigger source you're going to use into your camera, into the motor drive plug on your camera, and this little box, this is called a pre-release, pre-release switch, but it's called a pre-release cable. And what this does is, when it's off, it's essentially, it's letting the camera go to sleep. You know, when you're using...
All digital cameras are set up at some point. You can probably adjust this, but they're set up to go to sleep, to save the battery.
Correct.
And when they get an impulse to fire, they will wake up, but they will not wake up instantly. There's a lag time.
It's very slight, but it's a lag, and that slight lag is usually enough for you to miss the moment you're trying to capture.
Yeah.
So this pre-release cable, what it does, it keeps it woken up. And that's essentially the same thing as if you're using your camera, is keeping the shutter button halfway down, keeping the meter on. That's really what this is. It's keeping the metering on.
It's keeping the camera alive, so it's ready to respond instantly.
Correct.
Now, the downside of that over a long period of time is your battery's going to go a lot faster.
Correct.
But you're hoping in a modern camera, it will last for the duration of a basketball game or a soccer game or whatever.
Yeah, nowadays you really don't have to worry. If you turn it on 6 hours before the game starts, you might be running into some battery problems by the time the game's going. But nowadays with these new fantastic batteries, they'll last the entire game. We used to have to swap out batteries several times in events.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or getting up there afterwards and when did it die?
Exactly.
You know?
This is what the last frame is. And so thankfully the new digital cameras are significantly better than they used to be.
Yeah. So let's, before we get into any other trigger methods, let's just show with the floor plate and how we would do the same principle, but have the camera a little farther off the ground. I mean, the floor is great for basketball, but if you want to do a soccer shot or something like that, you want to have your little elevation here. And there are, in remotes, as in life, there are many ways to skin a cat. And, we're showing you a very nice machined plate here. You can use a piece of plywood. You can use kind of anything.
You can use anything.
Yeah.
You can use, we've seen guys using lawnmower wheels with a bolt and a ball head on top of it.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
There's all kinds of different things you could use. The best of the best, which unfortunately isn't manufactured anymore, is by Overexposed. Our good buddy Peter De Silva up in the Bay Area, brilliant photographer and inventor, created this product, and let's all try and get him to bring it back.
We're trying to get him to bring it back. Yeah.
But you have lots of different mounting points that you can screw different cameras if you want to. But we're just using our ball head today.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's just as simple as screwing the camera onto the ball head. Making the adjustments you want.
Yeah.
Tightening it down, and you're good to go.
Yeah. That's the way. Now, we also have spacers, so if you want to go higher, you put that between the ball head and the plate.
To get some extra height. That's like you're talking about soccer. You want to be off the grass more likely.
Yeah.
If you just use the batteries, you'd be a little bit too low.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can actually even use this to mount one ball head here, and you have another camera lower. So you could actually, if you want, put more than one camera in one setup, and it's another way to do it.
One thing about soccer remotes that I've learned the hard way is if you put them out too early when they're warming up, their targets. I mean, even behind the net, their targets. I've had the radio shoot right off the hot shoe. I've had a couple cameras set. So you want to put it out, you want to have it all set, then take it back, put it out at the last minute.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit more about different ways to fire the camera. Let's talk about the radios.
So we just talked about, earlier we talked about the hardwire method, but 90% of the time, just because of logistical reasons, you've got to use a radio. You can't be next to your camera, or you can't run several hundred feet of cabling. So we wind up using radios a lot more than we want to, but it's a necessary part of the job.
Yeah.
And the standard in the business is right here by LPA Designs, the Multimax. That's
Pocket Wizard brand.
Multimax.
But that being said, there are lots of different radios out now, a lot of new, less expensive products, and I can't testify because I've always used Pocket Wizards, but I know they work, and it doesn't mean you have to shut out. Plus, Pocket Wizards has a lot of different models now.
Correct.
And so they have a range of prices. But yes, whatever radios you get, you need two. You need a transmitter and a receiver. In the case of these Multimaxes, they're both. But so we've got our radio, whatever it is, and we're plugging it into our cord.
So it'd be set as a receiver. So it's going to receive the signal from the transmitter. On these Multimax units, you have two ports, a camera and a flash port. You plug it into the camera port. Now we see it's actually working. We're on receive. We're on the right channel. We're using channel 17 right now. And we test it. Test it to make sure it's working. We would always do this before even stepping foot near a field of play. This is done ideally back at home or at the studio before going to an event to make sure everything works.
You don't want to be fixing things in front of 50,000 people.
Exactly. And so generally it's tested before you ever leave and head on the road. And then once you get there, before it's even taken out into a field of play, I call it dry fitting. I put everything together just like it was going to be used.
Yeah.
Out on the field of play, I build everything, have every piece accounted for before even going out and testing.
Exactly.
And so this is kind of how we do it.
But it still might not work.
Correct. Always environmental factors or other things happen. But that's pretty much it. We stick the camera on the hot shoe.
That's not a necessity. There's no connection between the radio and the hot shoe here. It's just a convenient place to put the radio. But that being said, I would think you either want to disable the hot shoe or put a little piece of tape there so it's not making that connection.
Correct. Something that we do very often. We don't have to do it all the time with the Multimaxes because when it's set to receive mode, it's not going to be sending that trigger impulse out. Right. But some radios, I know a lot of people, like you said, they're using other brands of radios that I'm not familiar with. And the easiest way to disable a transmitter, a radio from transmitting on top of your camera's hot shoe is just to essentially turn it into a cold shoe.
Little piece of tape.
Tape right here.
Yeah.
And you stick it on the hot shoe. This is just a really easy, quick little hack to disable it. Instead of trying to look through menus or funky menus on the back of the camera or the radio to try and figure it out, you just turn it into a cold shoe. Now from there's no way that this camera is going to fire a transmitter.
But again, the radio does not have to be in the hot shoe of the camera. It can be mounted anywhere. Sometimes you'll find you're putting your camera in a position that won't allow anything here.
Correct.
You'll find that maybe it doesn't get a good signal there, and you need to drop it, hang it down, or put it on a separate mount. So this is just the easiest, simplest. One unit, you pick it up, you walk into onto the field, onto the pitch, and you put it down and you adjust it the way you want it.
Yeah.
And then got your transmitter.
You transmit, put the transmitter in the same channel as the receiver here, which is 17, and it works. There we go.
Now, so you've got your transmitter there, but you may not want to be pushing a button.
Correct.
So one thing is, if your hands are full, you can use a foot switch, which we have right here. There you go. Plug that in.
Now, these can be pretty hard to find nowadays, but it's a really simple foot pedal switch. A lot of photographers use Sewing machine.
I just going to say sewing machines. Yeah. Sewing machine pedals, not sewing machines.
Several years ago was with Robert Beck at the Stanley Cup in Seattle. We were going from Seattle to Vancouver. We forgot the foot pedals, and we found a used sewing store somewhere north Seattle or North Washington, and we bought a bunch of those and built them in the hotel.
Yeah.
It's really simple. Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah.
So
essentially,
under your foot.
That foot pedal is essentially sending the trigger impulse via the wire into the transmitter.
This is really good for baseball. Because baseball, you're in a photo well, your hands are full. You've got a long lens on a monopod, and so you can't do anything else to fire at any time. But when there's a play at the plate or wherever you've pointed your remote camera, a lot of times we'll put a remote at baseball somewhere on home plate for the play at the plate, because the photo positions behind home plate are pretty much gone in most new stadiums. So you got to put a remote camera there. It's on the plate. You're there. You're shooting, and you're shooting maybe with a 400 because you're out on first base, and that's a 70 to 200, and bam, and you're shooting too. Mm-hmm. So it's a handy way to do it. Another
way to trigger this without your foot. Maybe you want to use.
What's wrong with my foot?
Maybe you want to use a hand trigger as well. It's another method that we do a lot. And it's essentially the same idea. It's putting a different type of switch into the transmitter. But a lot of times what we do is, if this is the handheld camera, is tape this trigger right here so we can shoot handheld with a traditional shutter and then instantly switch to the remote camera.
Yeah, and again, the transmitter for convenience would probably be in the hot shoe.
It could be here, or it could be anywhere else, anywhere you want to wire it.
I mean, these length of these wires are totally up to how much wire you have and how many adapters and how many plugs you want to do.
Absolutely. Sometimes we would run hard lines for triggers down to the other end of the basketball court. It just depends on certain buildings. Radio signals are fantastic. They work really well in those buildings, and some other buildings are like being in a bunker, and you can't get a radio signal to work 5 feet away.
And another thing, at bigger events, a lot of people have these radios. They're pretty much the standard. They have 32 frequencies, so a lot of times we'll put up a list. They'll tape up a list in the photo workroom, and people write down what frequencies they are going to use. You can also get them modified to have custom frequencies, so nobody's going to get on there, but that's another step of complication.
Correct.
Most of the time, there aren't that many people. Somebody else has got a radio. You say, "Hey, what channel are you on?" And they say 2. I'll go to 7. Easy. So that's pretty much the size of it as far as low remotes. Again, there are a lot of variations of hardware, but this is the basic principle. We're going to come back soon in a new video and show you some other ways to mount cameras in other positions. So stay tuned.